Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Ajay, and today we are going to take one more question from the sample question paper of 2019-20, and this is the question in front of you. That's question 2 from the sample question paper, question 2H. Okay, and this is related to file handling. And the question says write a function in Python to count the number of lines in a text file story.txt which is starting with an alphabet A, and there is an OR question also. So out of the two you can do one, but we are going to do both of them. Okay, but in this particular video I am going to do the first one. So the question is, we have to write a function, we have to write a code, and it will be a function, and the function will basically display the number of lines from a particular file, that is story.txt, and it will only count those lines which is starting with the character capital A. Okay, so let us do this program right from the scratch. So this is the question again I have typed over here. Now let us type the program. So the first thing that I need to have is a function. So let us give a name to the function. Since they have not asked you to give any name to the function, you can give your own name. Now understand that whenever you give any name to the function, it should be in such a way that indicates what the function is going to do. So you have to use proper naming conventions for your functions, for your variables. So we will give a name to the function which kind of indicates what exactly the function is going to do. So I will give a name like count underscore lines and width A. So this kind of indicates that maybe this function is going to count the lines which is starting with the character A. So this is the proper naming conventions that we need to use. Okay, and then we have to use the handler, and I say open. Now over here we need to have one parameter, that is file name. This is just a name of the variable. We are going to pass an argument to this particular variable. We are going to call to this function and going to pass an argument. So that particular argument is going to get received by this particular parameter. Name of the parameter is file name. You can give any name. Okay, and then I'm going to use that particular variable name, that is file name, and I'm going to use, or I'm going to open that file in R mode. R indicates that I am opening this file in read mode. Since we are supposed to only read the file, count the lines starting with A, right? So we are going to open this file with the R mode. So we have a handler over here. This handler is basically an object. An object has methods. Okay, so we are going to use one list, and we are going to use the handler, that is handler dot read lines. That's it. Now this particular function, in fact this is a method because it's a function associated with this particular handler, so we call this as a method, but basically it's a function associated with this particular object, you can say. Okay, so read lines, this particular function will basically read all the lines from the file, that is the file name. Now file name means I'm going to pass a name, and this particular variable is going to have that name. So whatever name I pass, it is going to have that particular name. So we're going to read that file and we're going to open that file in read mode, and then this particular function will read all the lines and will return the lines in form of a list, and that's the reason I've given this name as capital L, which kind of indicates that it is going to be a list. And then what I will do, just for your understanding, let us just print this L and see the output. Now the thing is, I need a file that is story.txt, as what the question says, story.txt. We need to pass this argument, we need to give a call. For example, this is the main program now, and then I will give a call to the function, that is count lines with A, and then I need to pass this story.txt. Okay, but then this file should exist, isn't it? This file should exist. Only in that case we can read the file. Now please understand, in the question paper you are supposed to write only the code, but now that we are practically doing this, we need to see some output. We need to have this particular file, that is story.txt. So I have created this file, that is story.txt, as you can see over here, and there is a simple story typed over here, and this is a simple notepad file. It's a text file. Okay, that's a txt file. So already I have this file, and now I'm passing this as an argument which will be received by this particular parameter. And then let us just print this, and then slowly we will develop that program. Okay, now once I run this program, you can see the output of this particular program, that is a list. Now this is a complete list, and you can see that the line 1, that's the first line, it ends till pass, and after pass then you give an enter, that is a slash n. So even that will be shown in that particular list. So if you see the output, that is this one, you can see that's the exact first line, that is till pass, and you can see that slash n, that's the enter character, and then there is a comma, and that's the second element. So this is the first element of the list, and the next line will be the next element, and so on. So you can say this is a complete list. Okay, so now we have this list in our hand, and now what we are supposed to do, we are supposed to count the lines which starts with the capital A. So for that, simply I need to use a for loop for I in L. Now what I is going to have? I is going to have the first element from the list. And now what are the elements in the list? The elements are the lines itself. So I'm just using this print function, print I, just to show you what exactly I is going to have. And if I run this, you can see this is the output. And now you can see this is the same output, and we have printed this now, so there is no slash n over here. So this is the first line that it has printed, and since I'm using a print function and I'm not giving any end argument, that is the end, we can end a particular print function using the argument that is end, that's a keyword argument, but I'm not using that. So it is going to print that particular line, and by default there will be a slash n. So you can see there is a one line gap in all the lines. Okay, so that's the first line, second line, and so on. So it is working fine. So I will be initially the first line, then I will be the second line, and so on. So we are just accessing these elements from the list, understand it. Okay, and then so simple, we have to just check whether the first character of that I is 1 or not. Now what we are going to do, how we are going to do this is simply I will use if that I and the index value, that is 0. Now 0 means that's the first index value of I, and I'm going to check whether it is capital A or not. If it is, then what we are supposed to do, we require a counter is equal to counter plus 1, and let us just declare this counter before the for loop and give it as 0. And just for your understanding, what will I do is I will also print that particular line which is starting with capital A. Okay, and then outside this particular function, sorry, in this outside the loop, I will simply return that counter, and now this counter has to get collected over here. So over here also I'll give counter, and then I will print the counter. Okay, let me just give some proper message that the number of lines starting with capital A, and then that is colon over here, comma, and then counter. Looks good. Now let us just run this program and see the output. Okay, this is double equal to sign. Okay, now let us just run this program and see the output, and you can see there are two lines which is starting with capital A. You can see these are both the lines are starting with capital A, and the output is the number of lines starting with A is 2. That's the perfect output. Let us just check the original file whether we have only 2 lines. So you can see this is the first line starting with J, T, O, H, and over here you can see this is starting with A, and over here also it is starting with A, and these are the 2 lines that we had displayed on the as output. Okay, but as far as the question is concerned, you're not supposed to print that particular line, so you can simply delete this particular line, and that's it. So this is the code in front of you. You are supposed to write only this function definition, and that's it for your exam point of view. Okay, so simple. We have just used a for loop. We have checked I is going to have the the first line, then the second line, and we are just accessing the elements from this list, and then we are just checking that index value 0 whether it is capital A or not, and then we are simply incrementing the counter, and we are going to return that counter outside that loop, and that's the end of the program. So I hope that this particular tutorial is useful to you. So if you think you have achieved anything from my tutorial, do subscribe to my channel. Bye for now.